All right, so I am talking tonight about
I just spilled on myself and it makes me feel so much better.
oh my gosh,
The two
I'm
dead
so
hills
mean.
right
Can you
here.
imagine they kicked me out of primary? I'm like, stop that. Anyway, I am talking about videotaping people's life histories. And I actually kept this logbook in my last neighborhood when I did it, and I have videotaped 35 people's life histories. That's a lot, right? And it is the most fun thing ever to do. And people are like, oh, my life is so boring. And you know what? Nobody's life is so boring. Like, everybody's life is interesting. And I have never sat there and said, oh my gosh, I'm so bored by you. That has never happened. So this is Kelly's grandma that you'll see in a minute. And we actually, when she was alive, we talked her into writing her life history. And she did a really good job. So why do a videotape history, you're asking, right? She wrote it. We're done. So I'm going to read you an excerpt. Don't mind the reading glasses. You know I can't see anything. You know you've reached old lady status when you keep around your neck all day. All right, so this is from her history. She says, I remember the Easter of 1936 especially well. I made such a cute little yellow and white suit for Dwayne, and he looked so cute in it. That was her first child. He was wearing it in town on Saturday before BC just thought he was the cutest and was so proud of me for making it. Iris has the little yellow and white suit as a keepsake. I had been used to having a new dress and white shoes at Easter, but we could not afford them that year. And on Easter Sunday, when we were all gathered at Joe's, I felt so dowdy and sad because Brent's girls and Jane were all dressed in their Easter finery and I had none. I think the most fun old man Joe had was going to Crosby Town every day, which was about 9 miles, and he always claimed to have business in town. Of course, he did haul all the gasoline for the tractors and cars. On his way to town on Monday after Easter, he came and took Dwayne and me to town with him and bought me a pretty spring dress and white shoes. Not much went by that he didn't see, and he had a heart of gold hidden underneath his brusque manner. Okay, there's the story. Ready? Now, make sure this is on.
Right. So he would have been about early 20s.
Yes.
Right? So he wasn't that young.
Talking about
You
her.
were still in high school. So tell me about Bert. Bert, we don't know much about Bert and the family because we don't know much about the Applegates. We hear interesting stories.
Well, no one does, but there's a lot of scalawags in that family. They were kind of different people. I don't know how to explain them. They didn't believe in education, which my folks had. And they, what can I say? The old man Joe, the grandpa, he was a mean son of a gun. And yet he had a heart as big as gold. I remember one time one Easter, it was when Bean was a little tiny. Well, he was born in October, and this was the next Easter. My cousins who lived nearby, my dad's sister's children, that was the same age as we were, they always fared pretty well. They had money when no one else did. They owned 400 acres of wheat and cattle and what have you. Well, they came over to the Applegate place that day on Easter, and they were dressed up. In those days, if you didn't have an Easter dress, just forget it. Get in the closet and hide. And there I was. I didn't have a thing. And I felt so bad. Oh, I just felt awful. There I was, just a kid, but I thought I ought to have an Easter dress. Well, the next morning, the old man Joe, he stopped by and he said, I'm going into town. He went every day of his life. Come on, go for a ride with me. So I went to town. And we stopped right in front of this Gerald Mercantile store. And he said, let's go in here and look around. Well, that wasn't like him, but I went with him. And he bought me a new dress, new pair of shoes, and a hat.
Was this after you were married?
Uh-huh. He had seen how sad I was, but I felt so left out. So that's what it was like. But
Okay, so could you see the difference in the story? It's the same story, but you know, what you got out of me reading it to you and what you got out of her telling it are like light years apart, right? So I think that is the reason that I have recorded people's life history. I think that it's just a critical part of who we are, that you can't get that on paper. You can't get people's mannerisms and how they talk and how they interact, and you can pick up some of their sense of humor, but not really, you know, not all of it.
And you don't get the chimes.
You don't, right? You don't get to hear her clock, which went off every 15 minutes, which would drive me to drink. But she loved the old clock, and she was 95 when we recorded this.
No.
Yeah, 95. She lived to be 90. I mean, just an amazing woman, right? An absolutely amazing woman. But like I said, she really did a fantastic job writing this history. And those of you that have done, they've got some pictures in here, and those of you that have done family history, you're happy if you can find someone that wrote like a page, right? So she wrote like 30 pages, and it's fantastic. But I think it becomes complete when you add it with the videotape. And so, like I said, I have done 35 of these, so today I'm going to show you exactly how I do it. I'll pass this around in case you want to look at it. It's really kind of fun. So our new neighbor Becky has volunteered to come help me here. So just have a seat, Becky.
She didn't tell me anything.
I didn't. I told her that she didn't have to worry about this at all. That it was like there's nothing that you have to prepare. And that's when I do people's history, I don't tell them anything in advance, because you know how people are. They're like, oh yeah. How should I answer that question, right? They worry about it. And so it's just a very impromptu thing. I just show up with my camera, and typically I'll put the camera behind me. So, and I will tell you, like, don't worry about the camera, okay? I'm sitting right here, don't worry about it. And after like 5 minutes, you won't worry about it anymore. And so what this is it's kind of just an exercise in social skills. It's just keeping up a conversation with someone, right? Just a natural conversation. And like I said, I don't have to get every detail of her life for this to be valuable, but I'll pick up enough that it's really fun to do. So I do have a sheet of questions that is apparently on the QR code by the door. So you guys can pick up the QR code. So, and I tell people, if you don't want to answer a question, you don't have to answer it. Just say pass, or, you know, I don't like that one, try again. And I start with basics, which we'll kind of skip over, like, you know, what's your full name, where were you born, you know, tell me about your first house, tell me about your family. So tell me how many siblings you have.
I have 2 sisters. One has passed away.
And you fall where?
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
I'm a middle child.
Okay. Lucky.
With everything that comes with
Lucky.
very stereotypical middle child.
So how many years between?
2.5.
2.5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so as a young child, do you recall how you viewed your parents? Did you think they were like the coolest people in the world, or, you know, what was your...
Yeah, I did. I think of my childhood as very idyllic. Just grew up in the, 60s really, but I was born in 57. You know, just, it was a wonderful childhood. I lament that, you know, my grandkids aren't going to have the childhood that I had, with just being so free. And
So how...
my parents were private people, you know, upstanding citizens, and just very, I just think of them as very loving and caring, and you know, involved with us as children. and just kind of living the American dream, I guess.
So, like traditional family, your dad worked, your mom stayed at home?
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. And then, how did you get along with your siblings?
Pretty good. I do remember some trauma years with my younger sister, who was loved to tease me, and I guess I gave her the reaction she was looking for. So, but you know, all in all, it's funny when we get together. I mean, now my sister's gone, but when we would remember something that happened, or a trip or a vacation, and it's like we were on different vacations. Isn't that funny in families, that you can just experience it so differently, even how you remember your parents and what you remember.
It is always
So
like that.
you kind of fill in the gaps when you talk about it, which, you know, is wonderful to do.
Because everyone has their own take. Everyone has their own personality and their own take on the situation and how it happened and what happened.
Exactly, and we're all very self-involved. So we only look at life through our own eyes, and I guess that's the way it's supposed to be.
So how did you view yourself as a child? Were you full of confidence, ready to conquer the world? Were you afraid you'd fail at anything you tried?
Oh,
Where?
yeah. I was not very brave, not wanting to try new things, and very, not full of confidence. And that was nice. It was kind.
That's good. Good. So why do you think that? Why do you think that you were kind of shy? Was your family like that? Were your siblings like that?
I think my parents were from that time period or generation where, you know, you didn't like stand out. You know, you tried to be more just go with the flow. And so I think that that's what I got. It's more from my father than my mom. My mom was so traditional that only after my father died is really when I started to learn more about her personality. She just was very, you know, accommodating, and my dad was wonderful. I mean, we 3 daughters, we idolized him. I feel bad for my mom because we really did put him up on a pedestal. But I forgot what the question was.
That's okay. We're gonna move on. We have time for one more.
Okay.
So, tell me about family traditions that you had. Like, is there anything special that you did for Christmas or Thanksgiving or?
Oh yeah, we had dinner every night, the dinner table, and Christmas was very special. My birthday was a week before Christmas, and we always went to get our tree on my birthday, which I just loved. You know, it was just like in the movies. It really was.
The perfect dinner every night at 5. Your dad walks through the door. And...
I know, it really was like Father knows best. That's the life I felt I had. You know, the childhood I felt I had.
That's
So
lucky.
grateful.
Lucky woman
very
here.
Grateful.
Okay, so do you guys see how easy that is? I mean, it's just like I'm just having a conversation with you, right?
Yeah.
And it just happens to be on, it just happens to be on film. And it's really that natural. And I think the longer, like the first few minutes are awkward, right? They're like, there's a camera staring at me and I don't know what to do. But basically you just get past that until you're having a conversation. Mm-hmm. And it's, like I said, it's the coolest thing to do, because when do you have the opportunity to really ask someone whatever you want? Literally whatever you want, right? And it's like a window into somebody's soul that you don't have an opportunity for. And think about, it doesn't take, you don't have any preparation, right? There's no preparation. If you're the interviewer, you want to get familiar with the questions, right? And which questions might be appropriate. But there is absolutely no preparation on your part at all. All you have to do is come and sit. And the shortest interview I've done, I would say, was probably an hour. The longest I've done was 6 hours. He was really long-winded. But you know what? He's been dead for 10 years and his kids love it, right? They're like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I mean, there's a lot of things that I think there is an advantage of having someone outside the family do an interview because you don't take things for granted, right? I'm like, you know what I mean? Like if your sister were talking to you, like you said, like, she just assumes all of these things and I know nothing about you, so I can, dig in different places, kind of like your grandkids who wouldn't know so many details about you. So that is one advantage. But like I said, you can do this in an afternoon. And typically if I'm doing a husband and wife, I'll record one until they get married. I'll record the other until they get married and then put them together and then the fun begins, right? Because then you really get to see and you'll be like, oh no, it didn't happen like that. No, it was 1950, not 1949. But it's just fun to see how people interact and how people interact.
Relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Super fun. And like I said, it's one day of your life, literally one day for something you can't replace, right? Once they're gone, you absolutely cannot replace this. And it is so easy to do. Anybody have any questions?
A comment and then a question. And the comment is, I've done this for the University of Utah Library, the Women's Archive, and they always have us insert, and you may do this too, but some historical or sociological questions like, do you remember the landing on the moon and do you have any memories of the Vietnam War or Equal Rights Amendment or just whatever you want. But so with that comment, let me flip to my question. You're talking about preserving it on film, and what I've done for the University of Utah is all in writing. There isn't any film. What, with technology changing so fast, how are you preserving what you've done?
So that's what Heather gets to address. Because that is absolutely the tricky part, right?
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that one day there'll be, just a bank. Or I almost think, maybe the answer is you upload it to YouTube. You upload it someplace on some platform that's still going to be there. Otherwise, you have to chase the technology.
Yeah, that's the
To
question,
make sure.
what's still gonna be there.
Right. You know what I mean? And I do ask, those questions are hilarious. You know what I mean? Like, I remember, September 11th, can you remember exactly where you were when that happened, right?
Absolutely.
If you were old enough, absolutely. You remember exactly where you were. And so those kind of questions are very interesting because those memories are absolutely ingrained in people's minds. You never lose the traumatic things. You know what I mean? The traumatic things and the interesting things and the technological things. And I mean, I interviewed Kelly's grandma and she was 95 years old. So, I mean, the woman practically rode in a horse and buggy, just about. You know what I'm saying? Think about all the technology over those, that 95 years was a ton. And so that's really fun to address when you're interviewing someone older, even like the telephone, tell me about the party line in your house because you didn't have your own phone line. And so they're like, oh yeah, I used to listen in all the time to so-and-so's conversations. Because, the whole neighborhood shared the phone line and the telephone operator, she knew what everybody in town, everything about everyone in town. So I appreciate that comment, Cheryl, because that is really fun to, put someone into that time, right? Because in 100 years from now, things that we take for granted are going to be very interesting for them. And so you can pick up some of those details along the way. Anybody else have a comment, question? No?
I'm just dying to know where Becky grew up. I'm your same age,
In that-
and I'm just
in that
picturing this
perfect-
idealistic
In your perfect world.
In Orange County, California, Costa Mesa, Huntington Beach.
That is perfect.
That explains it. Thank you.
We all want to get to know